Barcelona, Luis Enrique Martínez. Recordeu, si us plau, de dir nom i mitjà abans de cada pregunta.
Hello. Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. We're about to start Luis Enrique's press conference.
Marc, quan vulguis, Marc. Sí.
Bon dia, míster. Marc Grau de Barça TV. De cara al partit de demà, m'agradaria saber com d'important
First question
la part ofensiva
is about the team, particularly in attack against the team Villarreal, who've got a very strong defensive record at the moment. Good morning.
Bien, pues afrontamos este Villarreal.
Well, we're playing Villarreal, knowing what a good side they have been this league season. They've got the best defensive record. Their coach has done a fantastic job. Villarreal staying loyal to their philosophy of recent years, playing a very attacking kind of football, creating lots of goal-scoring chances, but also knowing how to track back and defend. And the result of that is their strong league position. So we have to go there and try to get 3 points, and it's going to call on the very best of our team. Asking about San Mamés and a difficult game against Bilbao that ended in defeat, and whether that may have caused Luis Enrique to reassess his approach. No, it hasn't changed anything at all. I've analysed the game. Generally, a lot of things we did were as I would have liked. I think we played a very good game. Of course, there were certain elements that need to be worked out. Obviously, we conceded 2 goals, but we were creating chances, and I think we probably deserved a lot more than a defeat, at least a draw, as I said after the game. And I've had time to look at things perhaps with more clarity since that game, and I think that the way the team played was perfectly adequate, and I wouldn't change anything about what I did for that game or for tomorrow's game. Ask about Aduriz and Umtiti and the incident during the game. I don't really want to say anything about that. I'm always in favor of things that are helpful to the referees and that's positive to football as a spectacle, which at the end of the day is what football is all about, anything that protects the footballer. I think those are 3 things that I would always support if it's helpful to those 3 elements. But I'd rather not pick out specific incidents and have to analyse them. Talk about the way the players seem to react rather negatively to the refereeing on Thursday, and whether Luis Enrique's had a word with his players about speaking to the press. Well, when you don't get what you think you deserve in a game, it's normal that players can react that way. There was certainly a lot of tension building among my players during the first half, so those were the kind of logical reactions from players. Players do need to try to control as much as possible their emotions. But whether tomorrow's game is perhaps the most difficult away trip, and with that coming just 3 days after the game with Bilbao, and then the second leg coming up straight after. Who knows? You can never really tell about these different things. That's just the way the fixture list is. But this is a game between two teams that are high up in the league at the moment against a team that's doing very well at the moment. So, of course, it's going to be a difficult game. But who knows? Football's a funny game where perhaps the result won't reflect the supposed equality between the two teams. But my plan is the same regardless of what happened a couple of days ago. Do you, talking about the margin of error with the games with Alaves against Celta, do you still have any margin, do you think? Yeah, I'm sure we do. I bet that there's no team that's going to win every remaining game this league season. But what is true is that we're not in the position that we would like to have been, and the only way that we can put pressure on the leaders is by winning our games. That is our obligation. We're not going to win every game left this season. I wish we could, but we know we're not going to do that. There's a long league still to go. Talk about a really demanding fixture list after the break. Perhaps would you have rather perhaps a more gentle run-in of games for the new year? Oh, yeah, but it's all in theory, but then what happens in the games can sometimes be very different. Look, these are the fixtures that we've got. The players know what games they've got to play. They knew that before the Christmas break. They knew exactly what games that 2017 is going to be starting with. So we're fully prepared for that, and I'm really happy with the way the players responded at San Mamés. And hopefully this time against Villarreal we'll do the same, but get the right result.
Emilio Pérez de Rozas del periódico. Sé que no va a hablar de la renovación, pero vería lógico que el club
asking about renewing his contract and whether it may be logical for the club to set a deadline for a decision. The answer, yep, you're quite right. I'm not going to talk about renewing my contract.
Por Estados Unidos en San Mamés vimos una muy completa actuación de Neymar, pero lleva 10 partidos.
Talking about Neymar, played very well at San Mamés, but hasn't scored for 10 games. So perhaps, although he's playing very well in other aspects, he hasn't scored. Are you putting pressure on him for that? No, I think he's doing really well. We've known from Neymar's whole career that he's a very mature-minded player. He's got over stressful, tense periods. I think he's the same as ever. I'm sure he's going to score plenty of goals. In professional terms, we should focus on the positive things and not highlight something negative, because that's just going to have a negative effect. There are lots of very positive things to say about Neymar, more positive ones than negative ones.
¿Tiene usted la sensación de que en algunas ocasiones las actuaciones arbitrales convierten el fútbol más en un juego de azar que en un deporte?
Does refereeing turn football into a sport of luck, chance, rather than merit?
Siempre me he mantenido muy cauto con todo lo que significa el tema arbitral. I
always think we have to be very cautious with our attitude to refereeing. The professionals and other people that form part of the football family, it's really difficult to make a decision in a split second. And I think in this country in particular, we like to play the game of analyzing what's happened in games and focusing on these things. So I think we need to draw a line from what we actually say, and that's what I try to do. I show respect for referees. Talking about Piqué and his comments after the game and the rumours going around that he may receive some kind of a penalty. There's not much I can say about that because it hasn't happened anyway. So nothing else to say on the matter, really.
Precisamente por lo que ha pasado esta semana, los partidos tanto de Copa, del Barça, del Madrid, etcétera.
Talk about the cup games
De revelarse mañana, de con buen fútbol.
and Madrid's cup result as well, and whether perhaps there's a point to be made in tomorrow's game against Villarreal.
Lo siento, pero es que viendo lo que vi en San Mamés en cuanto
I'm sorry, but looking at what I saw from my players on and off the ball,
esa es la línea.
that's what I want to see from my players this season.
Cuando no teníamos el balón, el cierre de espacios,
When we didn't have the ball, we were closing spaces brilliantly.
las situaciones de
I
presión.
was really happy at the way we were putting pressure high up in the field. Really impressed with the attitude from all of my players. We played really well in the second half, getting over the tensions maybe of the first half.
Que las cosas no salen como desean y
I think for some of the players, things didn't work out as well as they might have liked, and yet they kept trying. That's the kind of Barca as a soul, as a mood that I want from my players. And if they continue with that attitude, they're going to achieve things.
De TV3, et volia preguntar si teniu la sensació que aquesta temporada cada cop hi ha més equips que us venen a buscar alt.
Do you think teams seem to be trying to apply pressure to you and taking the ball to your team? Is that perhaps changing it? You're not playing so much against teams that just close up shop at the back.
habéis hecho la pregunta a la inversa con
Look, you've just asked the reverse question to what you're asking 20 times last season. It was all about how do we deal with teams that stick five-men defences? Now, how do we deal with teams that try to put pressure on our defence?
están más cerca de nuestra portería.
Look, what it changes is if a team attacks us, then it's easier for us to get closer to their goal. It opens up the pitch. There's the element of leaving players free on the wing.
También arriesgar y presionarnos alto.
So there's always that risk of whether a team wants to defend or attack. They're leaving spaces elsewhere on the field.
Repito, no voy a decir qué es lo que prefiero yo, porque
So I'm not going to repeat because what I would prefer from a game, because that's giving clues to our opponents.
apartado del juego tiene sus complicaciones.
But every different approach to football has its complications. In this case, we're talking about how to deal with the team that brings the ball to us. And then you also need to work out ways of dealing with teams that defend.
No hay una situación exacta, no es que un
That-
equipo porque haga esto
It's not that there's any one solution to football, and that if a team does a certain thing against us, that means that they're going to get a result. That if we do a certain thing, that we're always going to get a result, because there are so many other factors that will tip the balance of a game one way or the other.
Amb el desavantatge a la Copa i la diferència de 6 punts a la Lliga.
Talk about being behind in the Cup and 3 points behind in the league.
Aquesta alçada de temporada, amb 5 mesos de competició,
So with 5 months to go, perhaps the thing's not going to plan.
hay un nivel óptimo para competir, ese es el nivel que tenemos.
Well, there's a level of stress that you need to deal with in football to compete, and I think that's what you saw in the second half at San Mamés, and that's what I want to see from my team for the rest of the season. Because of quality of players, mentality and ambition, there's nothing that we're missing. We've shown that for several seasons.
Luis, aquí a Sorpresa de BeIN Sport. ¿Dónde será la clave mañana ante un equipo?
What's the key tomorrow's game against Villarreal?
Pues me gustaría saberlo, pero
I wish I knew, but it's difficult because they like to play the ball like we do.
este no es un equipo que nos vaya a regalar el balón.
They're not a team that's just going to give the ball to us.
Normalmente cuando presionamos es relativamente
Normally, when we do the pressing, then it can be really hard to string together just 4 or 5 passes. Villarreal won't let us do that.
y precisos en lo que es la
We're going to have to be very accurate with our passing of the ball.
oportunidades de gol. Creo que
I'm sure that we're going to create goal-scoring chances, but it's going to be a difficult game. But really, to pick out the definitive key, ask me after the game and I'll tell you. But we really need to have the ball more than they do. I think that's going to be very important against a team like Villarreal. We're going to need to play really well to beat them.
Sí, hola, Luis Ignacio Miguel de A3 Media. Yo quería preguntarle, viendo que el Barça de Luis Enrique nunca ha ganado el primer partido del año, si pasan factura las...
Barca have never won their first game of the year under Luis Enrique. Is that an effect of Christmas?
títulos ha ganado el Barça de Luis Enrique a lo largo de estos 2 años.
Why don't you ask how many titles Luis Enrique has won in his 2 years at the club, and let's hope there's going to be more in the third. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Tomorrow then it's Villarreal at 8:45 Central European Time.